In a free society, having a bank account that is yours, you can control and doesn't get closed down is pretty much as important as water and electricity coming into your house. You literally can't live or survive without it, as I know only too well from my debanking experience a few years ago. And the fact that 10 other banks refused to give me an account until finally I was saved. There is now a new fraud bill that's going to make its way through Parliament. And the concern is, and yes, of course, we know there is too much fraud that goes on. We know that during COVID there were all sorts of abuses. But this bill would give senior civil servants, without court orders, the ability to look into your bank account and actually extract funds. It simply, in my view, cannot and must not be allowed to happen. Well, I'm joined in the studio by Andrew Griffith MP, Shadow Business Secretary, and somebody who did actually try and help me during my debanking struggles. I mean, this is even worse than debanking. You could wake up and find that a senior civil servant... I mean, is this really as serious as this?
It is as serious as that, and, they're both bad, right? You can't operate without a bank account, and as you discovered, there are people in any big organisation, and government is the biggest of all organisations, who will have their own nefarious views and values, undetected, as you found out with that subject access request. Yep. This is not a government of all governments, after what they did to Alison Pearson and what they're doing to people who make inappropriate posts on Facebook, that you want to have more untrammeled powers. So the removal of oversight, the elimination of that court process, which is what your basic Magna Carta habeas corpus is all about.
That's always been our protection, hasn't it?
Always. And if the government get away with this, and you saw what happened with debanking, and they take away our cash, the cash is one of the great protections of liberty against the state, then we really are on a road to perdition. Now, this government should pull this, go away and think again. Yeah. It's true we have an issue with fraud, but we know what will happen. The law-abiding citizen will be on the receiving end of snooping for, not using the right sort of energy or saying the wrong thing about climate, while those who come into our country illegally, claim benefits, abuse the system, will very rarely find themselves on the wrong end of this.
And you'll get an unscrupulous civil servant will sell details of celebrities' bank accounts to Sunday newspapers and all the rest of it. Where actually are we with this in terms of legislation and it going through Parliament?
Pretty early days, so it's right that you and others and my party are highlighting that. It's in the Lords at the moment. There's the chance to have amendments to get the government to back down, to raise this issue that your viewers will be very concerned about, my party's concerned about, other people will be concerned about this. There's a good organisations, they're not always right, but things like Big Brother Watch on this are on the right side of things. Toby Young's Free Speech Union is often a very strong voice, and of course GBNews.
Yes, I think GBNews is very much a part of that mix because we have these free, open debates. I wonder though, Andrew, just given the sheer size of the government's majority and given the depth of inexperience of most Labour MPs, I just wonder whether they actually read this stuff, think about this stuff. It could easily go through, couldn't it?
It could easily go through, and it's not a government that even seems to value freedom of speech. I mean, you remember they came on in the freedom of speech in higher education bill to protect, of all valuable things, free speech on campus, let people have ideas and debate them between themselves. One of the first things they did, Nigel, was try and prevent that bill ever coming to pass, so we don't have free speech on campus. Now, if they fail that test, I worry greatly that they will fail this test as well. We did put some protections in after what happened to you and others on banking. At least the banks have to be honest and they have to give their reasons, and that gives you a target. These guys, they don't even have to tell you. So the banks won't even tell you if the government's been snooping in your bank account.
All of this, debanking, and despite protections, there are still people being debanked for, one unusual payment and you're suspected of being a money launderer or whatever it may be. Then you get a situation like this. It's very interesting now that 1 in 4 people in Britain owns either crypto, currency, or digital assets, the digital wallet of some kind. And it's something that I've been, I was out in Las Vegas the other week talking about it. Why have we not, why did your government and this government, why are we not embracing something that clearly is not going away? And shouldn't we do so?
We absolutely should. I, as minister, did embrace it. I tried to change the direction of travel. The big word that is missing from so many parts of our national life is risk and accepting risk. So if you buy digital assets, you're taking a risk. The reason so few people own shares in our great British company is because the financial regulators try and extinguish all risk. They want your pension shoved full of government gilts. That's actually one of the reasons why that run on LDI happened.
The mini
budget. One of the contributing factors, even the Bank of England acknowledge. And we have a class. You can find them in every domain, stuffed in our regulators, all enjoying expensive public service pensions, not interested actually in the growth of the economy, just trying at all costs to avoid risk. But risk is really important in a financial system. You know that, I know that. And we need to fall back in love with risk.
What could London be? I think even this story that we've debated tonight, you and I, and the threat will make more people think, do you know what, I'm going to have some Bitcoin. And Bitcoin in the end becomes not just a punting mechanism. Well, I'm going to do that at Ascot on Thursday. That's, you can do that if you want to. But Bitcoin starts in places like Miami to be a genuine means of exchange. I can buy a Starbucks in Miami with Bitcoin. I can buy a Ferrari. Well, I couldn't, but I could with Bitcoin.
You probably could, Nigel. It becomes a quasi-reserve currency.
Yes.
If you don't necessarily trust government, or you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Now, as it happens, I think there's many other really attractive options for the people who currently are investing in Bitcoin, but they should certainly be allowed to do that. There are some efficiencies on payment, elimination of some costs that people face. But I really want to get people back and investing in our great nation. This is one of the best financial markets in the world, and it's dying on its bottom, to be quite honest. And this government is driving some of our best wealth creators overseas.
Yeah, Jacob, we have to bring Jacob in on this after years in financial markets. One of the hopes of Brexit is we'd free up financial services in Britain and become a hub for investment and a hub for new ideas like crypto. We've done none of it.
Well, unfortunately, you've got sort of client capture. So when you suggested to the city you should get rid of MiFID and AIFMD, all the incumbents said, oh, no, we've just spent lots of money putting in all these systems. And they love the fact that it keeps out new competitors.
Yeah.
And this is where governments have to be brave. Yeah. Governments end up responding to the business lobbyists. And what we need to say to the business lobbyists is, to Andrew's point, you need risk. And to get risk, you need deregulation. And we're very sorry that you've spent lots of money on regulation, but that's now yesterday. I got criticised by the supermarkets for criticising the regulation that you couldn't have chocolates by the till.
I remember.
We've spent lots of money doing this, and now the ministers say we shouldn't have bothered either. For heaven's sake.
Extraordinary. Yeah. Now, this, of course, would all take place, the fraud by the Department of Work and Pensions, and there's a statement. I'm going to read Andrew what their defence of this is. They say, we are bringing forward the biggest fraud crackdown in a generation as part of wider plans that will save £9.6 billion by 2030. There we are. It is right that we modernise our approach to catching fraudsters and identifying overpayments at the earliest stage. All the powers in this bill are underpinned by a principle of fairness and proportionality and do not involve mass surveillance of people's bank accounts. We are absolutely clear we will not tolerate any waste as we protect taxpayers' money, ensuring people get the money they're entitled to, and we invest in our public services as part of our plan for change. So there's nothing to worry about.
No, nothing to worry about. They've got it all in hand. Just give them more powers and, in fact, just hand over your money now. But there's a really serious point. I'm on the side of those who want to take a really aggressive approach to people who are ripping off the taxpayer, wherever they are. But that shouldn't allow us to seduce ourselves to giving up our freedoms. You expect, we expect, a magistrate, a warrant, some part of an independent justice process to be involved.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Pleasure to have you on the programme.